What is information literacy and whose responsibility is it to teach information literacy? Quite simply put, according to the American Library Association, information literacy is the set of skills needed to find, retrieve, analyze, and use information. Some argue that information literacy skills are intuitive now and don't need to be taught, but I disagree. I'll point out the importance of information literacy in general and stress how important it is to start teaching information literacy skills at a young age. I will also explain why teaching information literacy skills and fostering growth in this area not only needs to be taught, but also needs to be a joint effort between educators and librarians, including public librarians. The importance of information literacy. It is difficult to find anyone opposed to teaching information literacy. Almost all educators and librarians agree that in this information age, adequate information literacy skills are essential. Because of the internet's growth, many find that information literacy, while valuable, is almost intuitive now. After all, children are growing up with tablets in their hands. They have the world at their fingertips from a very young age. But William Badke explains, quote, "The new world of technology has come upon the world like a bullet train. No one could have imagined 15 years ago that most teens would spend enormous portions of their day texting one another. Google promises the whole world of information right on your screen. Research has become easy. Open a search box, throw some words into it, and voila." Is this way of thinking correct? No, it is far from correct. In the article Teaching and Assessing Information Literacy, Adam Blackwell did a good job of sharing some of the main problems he's encountered. I found that my students tended to all have the same problems when it came to doing any kind of scholarly research, he says. One big problem was that they struggled to distinguish between credible and non-credible sources. The concept of scholarly was very fuzzy to them. They thought it was synonymous with serious, and so they'd reason, the New York Times, it's a serious newspaper, so it must be a scholarly source. Blackwell went on to explain the issue arises when they take these strategies that work very well for what we might call consumer research and apply them when researching a question which is scholarly in nature. So in other words, just because people know how to use the internet to find a local Italian restaurant, say, or to figure out who won Super Bowl 14, does not make them information literate. So why is there this misunderstanding? William Badke in the article Who Owns Information Literacy mentioned that embarrassment leads to secrecy about being information illiterate. He stated, "We, information professionals, see students struggling and frustrated with seemingly impossible research projects. We see it every day. Do professors or teachers? Only rarely, because no student with an ounce of self-respect is going to admit to a professor or teacher that he or she doesn't have the knowledge and skills to do the project. Students anticipate being told, you should know this stuff by now. If students reveal their inadequacies to anyone, it is to a librarian." This statement begs the following question. Should college students, quote unquote, know this stuff by now? And if so, who should be teaching them? Teaching information literacy skills at a young age. Badke iterated, our online culture of immediacy fosters the grand myth that skill with technology is intuitive. The fact that a 5-year-old can pick up an iPhone or an Android device and get some benefit from it right away leads us to assume that the technology teaches itself. It doesn't. Leslie Farmer explained just this concept in her article, Team Up for College Readiness. Farmer argued, too often post-secondary librarians complain that teens enter their libraries with subpar information literacy skills. For students to be college ready, they need to start learning how to learn much earlier than high school in order to grasp concepts and practice ways to engage with information. Teaching information literacy should be a joint effort. So while most educators and librarians seem to initially agree that teaching information literacy is important and it should start in kindergarten, who should do the teaching seems to be up for grabs. Leslie Farmer stated her opinion, saying, currently, the Association of College and Research Libraries is revamping information literacy standards in light of emerging technologies and changing workplace needs. There is hardly a better time for collaboration between K through 12 and academic librarians. Now, of course, I argue that the equation is not complete without factoring in public libraries and public librarians as well. William Badke, in the article Who Owns Information Literacy, supported my way of thinking. The information literacy movement grew up within academic librarianship for the most part, although a few public and corporate librarians have chimed in, he says. We could safely argue that it would not have achieved the stature it now enjoys without the advocacy of information professionals, which includes all of us. We have to be careful, though. This ownership of information literacy by information professionals is not necessarily healthy. All librarians, academic, public, corporate, act as advocates of information literacy, but we cannot do it alone. Teaching information literacy must be a collaborative effort, and this collaboration includes public libraries. In the end, I challenge you to understand the importance of information literacy. After all, in this information age, we are being inundated with information coming at us from numerous sources. The American Library Association reiterated the importance of information literacy. Quote, "Have you heard of data smog? A term coined by author David Schenck, it refers to the idea that too much information can create a barrier in our lives. This data smog is produced by the amount of information, the speed at which it comes to us from all directions, the need to make fast decisions, and the feeling of anxiety that we are making decisions without having all the information that is available or that we need. Information literacy is the solution to data smog." As I have explained, many college students do not have the necessary information literacy skills needed. If we can agree that information literacy is essential and that learning the skills necessary to be information literate needs to start young, it is a natural conclusion that educators and librarians, including public librarians, need to work together to ensure this success. In the article Team Up for College Readiness, Leslie Farmer said, librarians can work with their respective communities on the bigger picture questions. What are developmentally appropriate information literacy expectations, and how do librarians collaborate with subject area college instructors to facilitate student learning? Information literacy is important. It affects all of us, and it needs to be taught starting at a young age as a collaborative effort between educators and all librarians. Information literacy is not the sole responsibility of any one person, but must be taught through all available channels. Thank you.